Well, hello, everyone. I'm Bonnie Low-Kramen. I am your host of Heads Together. I'm really excited to be here on this Wednesday, February 16th, 2021. The year is flying already, and I am joined here by my able cohort in crime here, Jen Wilner. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Bon. Hello from chilly, sunny, soon-to-be storming New Jersey.
Oh my goodness. And I'm here in Ponte Vedra, Florida, and I won't rub it in too badly. It's not like it's super hot here or anything, but at least there's no snow. And I'm really feeling for, hi, Lynn. Welcome from Akron, Ohio. We want to welcome anyone and everyone coming into this show today and hope you are cozy and warm wherever you are. My goodness, people all over the country, Oklahoma and Texas, they're suffering badly, as if this year wasn't volatile and, active enough with COVID. We have all this freezing temperatures from all over the place. But here we are on this Wednesday in the middle of Black History Month. And hello, Sandy. Welcome from New Hampshire. And Jessica from Miami. It's not snowing by you. Welcome, Benita. I want to welcome all of you into the show today. Hi, Melody. We welcome all of our listeners and viewers from all around the world. Heads Together is such a great opportunity every week to just see what is burning in the world and to talk about it. Natalie's here from Paris, and hey, Ben from Charlotte. Oh, hi, Deborah from Belgium, and Lorraine from Scotland, who just got rid of the snow. It's crazy. Well, welcome, Eleanor from the UK. So happy you are all here. You all know that during this month of February, we are acknowledging and celebrating Black History Month. There's so much to say about what's gone on and so important to take on the issues that are impacting Black assistants in the workplace and people of all colors in our workplace. It impacts our day-to-day operations. And what we know is that the ways in which our workplace works best is when we're dealing with professionalism and respect with one another, as opposed to the disrespectful behaviors that are associated with racism and discrimination. Mm-hmm. So it is in that spirit that I've invited a wonderful Black assistant for each Wednesday in February, and today is no exception. So Deborah's saying she couldn't miss Lacretia. Lacretia Caldwell Adamski is our guest today. I've had the pleasure of knowing Lacretia for I think over a year now, and I want to tell you a bit about her before we bring her on out. But I'm just looking at all of you coming in from Italy and California and Chicago. People are saying, hi, Jen. It's so cool. Sharon from Atlanta, we're really happy you are all here and get involved with the conversation. I'm going to bring Lacretia out in just a moment. If and when you have questions or comments for Lacretia, please put them in the chat box. Jen will be moderating the chat, and Lacretia intends to answer as many of your questions as possible. And she has even agreed to stay beyond the half hour if, in fact, they're coming in hot and heavy from all of you all over the world. And hi, Shiva and Tracy and Beth. It's so great. Julie Kavanaugh from Colorado Springs. So cool. All right, let me tell you a bit about Lacretia Adamski, Lacretia Caldwell Adamski, who is a Jersey girl, like me and like Jen. Awesome. And both Lacretia and I are Rutgers University graduates. So I'm super happy for so many reasons to have her here. Currently, she is a senior executive assistant at Salesforce. She leads an administrative team of 11 people, at least one of whom is listening today. So welcome, Ben, to you. And her team, the whole team supports 1,000 people. So my goodness, there's a lot that Lacretia has to share about leading a team, and her subject in part today is about exerting power and influence as an assistant, which is something she knows quite a lot about because she does it all day, every day. She is a champion for diversity and inclusion. And this year, she was honored as Woman of the Month by Salesforce in July, a great honor. And she was honored by Washington Exec as a finalist for the 2020 Executive Assistant of the Year, cementing her reputation as a trailblazer within the executive support community. And indeed, she is. Mm-hmm. And to get this, I even learned a few things about Lacretia today from her bio that she sent. That outside of work, she's a foodie. I didn't know that. I'm not a foodie. I love knowing foodies. So great knowing them, right, Jen?
Yeah.
Lacretia is a savvy gourmand. Only foodies know that word. Who loves dining out almost as much as she enjoys cooking at home. She develops her own recipes. She's developing a food blog. Oh my God, shoot me now. She is currently living in Alexandria, Virginia. And she and her husband host a consistent rotation of visiting family and friends at their home there. And Jen will be putting Lacretia's information in the chat box. She has a website, LacretiaAdamski.com, if you can put that in the chat. So certainly Lacretia is going to be inviting you to connect with her on LinkedIn and through her website. Without further ado, can we please give a nice, warm, virtual welcome to Lacretia Caldwell Adamski.
Hi.
Hi there. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. We have quite a crew coming in from all over the United States, Netherlands, Chicago, Dallas. I mean, Lacretia, my goodness.
And can I just say, I saw in the comments that Susan Palumbo is calling from my hometown of Neshannock Station, which is also called Branchburg, New Jersey. So that is so random, but I have to say hello to Susan.
Hey, Susan. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, neighbor.
As a way of getting to know you, Lacretia, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. Is that okay?
Let's do it.
And let's see what you have to say about them. Okay. Nina Simone or the Supremes?
I would say Nina, but I really want to say Whitney because I'm a Jersey girl.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Whitney. I miss her. Don't you miss her?
So much. Yeah.
Oh.
And the anniversary of her passing just happened not too long ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tragic. Favorite TV show as a child?
Facts of Life. I love Tootie. I wanted to be Tootie.
You wanted to be her. When travel is safe, where's the first place you're going to go?
So I would love to go to France because I've been studying wine for the past 2 or 3 years. I have a level 2 certification, and I love wine, particularly from like the northeast region of France. Like I've figured out exactly like where my go-to stuff is. So I want to tour wine country in France.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, when I've had the great pleasure of going there a couple of times, and what's interesting is that there's a rivalry, which I learned about, between France and Belgium.
Oh,
like, who has the best wine and who has the best food and who has the best chocolate?
Oh,
and oh my God, those people in Belgium, they totally rival France. So when you go to France, you might want to check out what's going on in Brussels and Belgium. And
okay.
Favorite ice creams, since we're on food, favorite ice cream?
Okay, so I made my own homemade strawberry ice cream a few weeks ago. That is my favorite ice cream.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm not surprised.
What, the flavor or
the gourmand? Because she's the gourmand.
If you could have only one book on a desert island, what would it be?
You know, I'm not that girl that curls up with a fiction book. So I would probably tend to get a book I could learn something from. So probably a wine book.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So, anybody looking for a gift for Lacretia? We now know what that would be. Favorite movie?
Oh, there's so many, Bonnie.
I know. Give us a one or two.
Yeah. I loved The Best Man Holiday. That had me in tears.
Oh.
And you know what? I hate to say it, maybe not, but The Devil That Wears Prada.
And
That
why?
it's just so relatable. It's just as an EA.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's funny and it has a good ending, I think.
Yeah. And yeah, interesting. Favorite superhero?
My mom.
Oh. Least favorite sound?
Oh, so around 2:00 every day, my cat makes this insufferable sound because she wants to eat. So that sound is
Well, she kind of tells you what time it is, huh?
She does, and my coworkers can set a watch to it.
Favorite beverage?
Champagne. I will never turn down a glass of champagne.
French champagne, right?
I don't care.
I don't care.
But yes, I would prefer to be French.
Last thing you binge watched?
So my husband does not like binge watching. I can binge in like a weekend, but he prefers to space things out. So we binge multiple things simultaneously. So we did Bridgerton, Lupin, and The Queen's Gambit.
Oh, I love The Queen's Gambit.
That was really good.
Really, really good. That's interesting
Mhm.
about you and your husband and the watching, things. And just as an aside to everyone, because this thing blew my mind the other night, I shared it with Lacretia and Jen already. It is a one-man show on Hulu. It's called In and of Itself. One-man show. If you end up loving it the way I did, it's co-produced by Stephen Colbert and his wife. It is so worth 90 minutes of your time. You'll have to let me know if you agree with that. Okay, so I had digressed. Let us get back to the subject at hand, which is now that we know you a little better, Lacretia, thank you so much for being so game for those questions. How you are a team leader of 11 people. And there's just so much volatility in the workplace right now about the ways in which executive assistants are having to recalibrate their work. With 5 minutes notice back in March, they were, so many people working from home, many of whom had never worked from home before, or some had worked at home some of the time. Talk to us about the subject that compels you so much, which is about EAs exerting power and influence in the confines of their role, with the backdrop of pandemic, backdrop of Black History Month, and the race issues in the workplace. I know it's big, but tell us what you're thinking.
That's a lot there. Well, I think I'll start with the pandemic. So when the pandemic first hit, we all were kind of forced to work from home. It just seemed like a lot of people were feeling a little disconnected from what was going on with their executives, right? People were, instead of, scheduling meetings, maybe calling direct and texting. And so I think some EAs may have felt a little bit cut out of the process. But, I have been coaching EAs for about a year now, and I've also been mentoring. And one of the things that I've noticed is, a lot of it has to do with the confidence of just exerting your presence and reminding people that you are there to add value. And I think if you can set yourself apart from just being the person that schedules and does expenses, and don't get me wrong, that is important. That's a part of the job. And if you can't do that, you're out. But you have to figure out ways that you can do more and be seen as more than that. And not only that, you have to be able to deliver results on a consistent basis for people to realize that they can come to you. And it's not just for scheduling, but maybe it's to resolve a roadblock. So one of the things that I've done, I have requested to meet with certain people on my team, certain stakeholders. I don't wait to be asked to come to a meeting. I kind of proactively reach out, and I sit in on my executives' team leadership calls. I know what some of the issues are. I know where some of the gaps are. So what's stopping me from picking up the phone and saying, hey, is there something that I can do to remove a roadblock for you? It could be as simple as making a connection with someone else in the company or someone else on the team. Or it could be, rolling up your sleeves and collaborating on something. But unless you put yourself out there, people won't know to come to you for anything but getting on someone's schedule.
Interesting. So give us some more info about how assistants can be more influential, if they're getting pushback, or they're frightened to either ask to sit in on that meeting or to be proactive, as you're talking about, to pick up the phone and saying, is there something I can do to remove that roadblock? It seems like you must have had to have a conversation with your executives about that way of working, or not?
No. I mean, for me, and not everyone is going to have the same stomach that I have for just kind of pushing through. But I think that if you understand, or if you hear in your executives meetings what's going on, you can be strategic about who you reach out to, right? So maybe you're not going to start with, his senior VPs. Maybe you're going to start with someone further down in the organization who might be more of a project manager, working on something that is relevant to what's going on in your team. Why can't you reach out to them and say, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about what you're working on? This came up in the staff meeting and I'd like to know more. Are there ways that I can help? And that's another thing. People love getting help. And I think as EAs, we have this perception that, well, you're close to the boss, right? So if you're close to the boss, then maybe my name will come up, or, maybe I'll get some wanted or unwanted attention, depends. But I think people do like coming to the executive's assistant for assistance, because I think that there's a way that you have knowledge of other things that's going on in the team, and you might be able to enlighten them on things that haven't come down the pipe yet. I mean, one of the things that I've noticed is that there's a communication, the flow of communication can often get stuck at the top, and it doesn't always go down the chain. And so the more that EAs can kind of work their way through the rest of the organization, they can bring up things that have come up in the staff meetings. I mean, you do have to have some discretion, but there are certain ways that you can talk to your team about what's going on, and kind of close those loops so that they can get involved, either by speaking to their manager or other teammates, to kind of keep projects moving forward.
Give us a sentence or two about that kind of discretion, about what are the words that you actually say to a team member to encourage them to be more proactive. Or because what I hear in the trainings we do, we often hear a lot of fear around doing that. The fear is of backlash. The fear is of, well, why are you asking me that? Or, a wariness, a suspicion, like, what are your motives? That historically assistants have not really been encouraged to be, as you say, have the stomach for just going for it.
Yeah.
How do you get that stomach, and what do you say?
Like I said, you really do have to be strategic in who you talk to. There are people who they work so hard, and to get attention from the boss's EA on something that they're doing, they're usually really happy to tell you about their role and what they're doing. And if by chance you can help them remove a roadblock or make their life easier, they now see you as an advocate or as a friend, right? And what I've found is the more that you start talking to people in the organization, they're more willing to tell you what's going on than maybe their manager or their manager's manager. And that's the real value, if I'll be honest. That's the real value where you really get a sense of what's going on in your organization. And at that point, you have the option to make it actionable. If there's something that's just, egregious, you have to tell your manager. But there are other things where you could be speaking to someone and that they've had a bad situation with their manager or someone on the team, and they feel like it hasn't been addressed or they don't know how to get it addressed.
Right.
I mean, that's an opportunity for you to, kind of counsel that person and either helping them find the right resources so that they can get the answer or the issue resolved. But if it's a broader issue, then that's something that you need to bring up to your leader and their management team to get resolved. And I've had a situation not too long ago where someone confided in me about a situation. And, I said to them, how do you want to resolve this? Do you want me to, move forward with telling one of my execs? Because if I do, the phone calls will start. And I totally respect that if you're not comfortable with that, I can hold off. But I do think at some point, I do need to bring this up at a larger level so that it can be addressed. And, that person opted to just wait because of fear of retaliation. And I totally understand that. So I will be checking in on that person. But, you do want to make sure that you have a sense of what's going on.
That's awesome. Now you lead 11 people. Given the way you are being so forthright and direct, although very diplomatic, do you find that your team, those 11 people, are responding in kind? Are they, understanding that that's a pretty cool way to operate? And so are you seeing that it's that your behaviors are infectious as a leader?
I don't know if everyone wants that for their role. There's been a big push about being a strategic business partner. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's great. But there are some people who enjoy the more traditional executive assistant role. And it's all the same thing technically. But, how you operate in that space, it's going to vary from person to person. So again, with my team, I think it also varies from person to person what their comfort level is and what their relationship is with their executive.
Right. So you as a team leader, we've had this conversation with Julie Kavanaugh, who's listening in on this call, about being chief of staff and leading people. Like there's a lot of terminology about it, but how interesting that, you meet people where they are, that you treat everybody as an individual. And that's certainly a valuable strategy when you're leading others, that we don't put them, they're not all the same. Mm-hmm. Could we move on to talking about Black History Month? And could, we talked about in your bio that you are a champion for diversity and inclusion. Could you speak to what's happening right now and the experience of Black assistants, and how can we all participate in being a part of the solution, about being anti-racist in our workplaces? Lacretia.
So you mean more about how can you be an ally?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think the first part is to acknowledge that being an ally is more than being tolerable or tolerant and nice. It actually requires action on the person's part. So what does that mean? You do need to do some of your own personal cognitive work and understanding what the issues are. And it's far too often, I find that the burden of making workplaces more inclusive and diverse falls on the shoulders of the underrepresented minorities within that company or the team. And it takes a lot more than that. It can't just be us. So in order to have a seat at the table, you have to do the work, and no one can do that for an ally but the ally themselves. But there are other ways that people can get involved. I think that if people engage with us, I mean, last week, Sonia mentioned the word or the phrase cultural shadowing, which, I mean, I've never heard that before. And I tried to look it up to see if it was a thing. It wasn't. So thank you, Sonia, for making it a thing.
It went on me too.
Yeah, I think the more that people understand our experience, particularly, and I can only speak from the Black experience in America, the more that people talk to us and understand what it is to walk in our shoes, I think can be very enlightening for people. But before you can even engage in those type of conversations, you have to come with an understanding of some of these issues, like microaggressions and gaslighting and all of these other things. I think that other people can also find ways to amplify voices of people of color within their organization, and particularly when no person of color is in the room. That's where we really need the support. And it could be in terms of raising awareness to really good work that's happening on the team by someone that might just not be noticed. It could also be with unpacking some of these microaggressions that you may hear and really challenging it.
Can you give us an example of one or two, Lacretia?
The first one that comes to mind is one that's near and dear to me. It's the whole angry Black woman thing, right? And I don't know why Black women have ownership on anger or anger management, but to refer to a Black woman as being angry or quick to raise her temper as opposed to being passionate or challenging a question because they really want to see another side of a situation. I think that needs to be unpacked. I think we Black women are too often ascribed with that stigma.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we can all be a part of challenging and not be so quick to judge, not be so fast on the
Right.
trigger. So, my goodness, the time is flying. Jen, I think we have a lot of comments, and including your mom. Oh, Lacretia.
Oh, hey, Mom.
Fantastic.
How nice to be told publicly that she's your hero.
Right.
So what other questions for Lacretia here?
So they're talking about who's been working in their office during the pandemic. So Tiara says visibility is so important for EAs, especially now that we're all working remotely. It's so easy to not be seen if you're not being proactive and putting yourself out there in your organization.
That is so true.
Right on.
Nobody puts baby in a corner. You have to get out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another movie reference.
But, Bonnie, you've also talked about being a SME, right? And becoming a subject matter expert. And I think that the ability to which that we can also own a space on our teams as being the go-to person, that also will help get you that visibility, and people will call you in to help them with things. And, as EAs, we do favors for people, right? So cash some of those favors in. Ask people, remember that time that I helped you with such and such? Can you help me with this? Would you mind if I sat in on your meeting? I mean, there are ways to kind of insert yourself without being too punchy or too, I don't know what the word is, but there are ways strategically to kind of insert yourself across the team. You just have to find your moment, and you have to find the right topic, the right way to go about it.
Right. I'm struck in the chat by Annette's comment, that she's had people say, be careful, don't bring out the Puerto Rican in her, talking about Annette. So, she can totally relate. I mean, let us be clear that this issue is very much alive in the workplace, that people are saying hurtful things, and sometimes consciously and some unconsciously, right, Lacretia? I mean, it's hard to be proactive and, offer to be in that meeting if mean things are being said.
And that's the thing. Other people might not see it as a mean comment, right? That's part of the problem. The comment about bringing out the Puerto Rican, someone else may say, oh, I don't get the big deal, but it is insensitive to say that. And the more that people can raise awareness to what these microaggressions are, we can challenge them and hopefully encourage behavior to stop that from happening.
If that was said, as a team leader, what would be your advice for how do you respond to something like that, Lacretia, do you suppose?
Let's unpack that. What do you mean by that? What does it mean being Puerto Rican? Where does that come from? Why does that Black woman get named angry?
Right.
What do you mean by that? Where does that come from?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
and that's very similar to what Sonia was saying last week. Let's take a look at that. And to not be afraid of that, let's have that conversation.
That's right.
This is definitely not going away. And as I said before we went on the air, that yes, we're doing this series for Black History Month in February, but I have no intention of letting this go away. There's far too much to wrestle with here as we move to real solutions in our workplace, where we're trying to function in our everyday work lives in a spirit of respect and professionalism. And discrimination and racism cannot breathe in an atmosphere of true respect. So I like to think that these shows of Heads Together and the conversations that we're having are contributing to that. Lacretia, what final thoughts do you have on this subject that our listeners can take away?
Well, I do want to say something to any of the Black assistants that might be tuning in today. One is, we do have access to leadership teams in our organizations, and I think it's important to figure out how you're going to show up. I know for me, I have been the only person of color in the room for many years, and I still am. And when I first got to my current job, I kind of had to sit back, and I wasn't sure if and how I could insert myself in certain conversations. And minus there being a Black executive in the room, I had to realize that, you know what? Until there is a Black executive in the room, I have to fill that seat. I have a perspective that I can bring to this leadership team that no one else has. And I had to step into that role. And one of the ways that I did that was last summer following the start of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I don't know how much time we have, but the first meeting.
We've got time. Go ahead.
After the first meeting, when the protest started, I know that weekend I had spent crying. Like, I was just so upset by what was going on in the world, and talking to my colleagues and talking to my friends and family, we all felt the same way. And when I showed up on Monday, I was surprised to see that our team was, kind of back to business as usual. And I just was not in that space. So I challenged my executive team to, let's take a moment here and acknowledge what happened this weekend. And I expressed how I was feeling, and that a lot of colleagues on the team were feeling the same way, and that we really needed to make a statement about if people don't feel like they can show up, turn on their cameras and be present at work, we need to give people the space to heal. I mean, there was so much of an emotional toll and trauma with what was going on in the world around us.
Right.
And, not everyone wanted to show up and smile and be on camera, even though we had all this work to do. I mean, we are doing important work, but having that conversation with my leadership team and giving them that perspective, they took my advice and they had an all hands call where we talked about it. And we gave the team, including managers, I don't want to say permission, but we said, you absolutely should be discussing this with your teams just like we did. And you should be checking in on each other, and you should be allowing people to log off or turn off their cameras if they are not feeling like they can show up 100% today.
Right. And so what did you want from people? What would have been thoughtful? Because so many at that time, and you and I have talked about this, that white people have said to me, like, oh, Bonnie, I don't know what to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I don't say anything.
Yeah.
What is the right thing to say? Is it simply a matter of, how are you? Or, I'm so sorry that happened?
When we had our call with our management team, we all kind of went round robin and talked about how we were feeling and our reaction to it. And I got the same comment. I don't know what to say, so I just haven't said anything. And I said, what you've said just now is all you need to say because it's authentic. So no one is asking you to have some prophetic response to what's going on in the world or to solve it, but just to have that empathy and show the people that you work with that they're seen. A lot of the comments that I got was that we just don't feel seen, we don't feel understood, and we're expected to show up at work like it's just another day, and it's not another day. And it really struck me when I was talking to one of my colleagues, and the first thing he called was to say, how are you doing? And I was like, you know what? Thank you for asking me, because I've been working all day. I've been feeling some type of way. I couldn't really associate that what was going on in the world was affecting me in my work. And the fact that you even stopped me and asked me how I'm doing, it kind of knocked me off my heels. And that was a light bulb moment for me that, you know what, I need to do more in protecting my well-being and my emotional well-being, and speak up for others.
And that goes for everybody, not only Black assistants. That's right. We're big advocates. We've talked many times about the need for assistants to speak up and stand up and show up about the issues that matter to us. On this show, we talk about career progression and like bullying, so many things that need addressing in our workplace. Jen, do we have any other comments, questions for Lacretia before we wrap up for today?
Yes. So sorry, Sandy was asking a question about managing staff. What is your biggest challenge with a team of 11, juggling your own work and guiding them?
Time. It's so hard to get with everybody, and a lot of the team supports multiple people, so there's always competing issues with time on my part or their part. I think the other challenging issue too is not having a direct line of management experience, and I'm not saying that that's what I want. But I think that, it is a fine line, engaging in these conversations as, hey, you don't report to me, but how's it going? What are you working on? And are there ways that I can help you? I mean, just like I speak to other people, other managers on the team, I want to find out from them if there are ways that I can remove roadblocks or help them, do their job.
Right. Well, I think you have given us a lot of great language today, Lacretia, for ways to move in this workplace. And I'm very grateful that you said yes and that you are here today. And you shared that you do mentoring, you do one-on-one coaching with assistants, and I assume others as well. So is it best to reach out to you on LinkedIn? How would you like people to reach out to you?
LinkedIn is great.
Okay, and you're under Lacretia Adamski there too, or
Yes.
the Caldwell is present, I
The
think.
Caldwell's there too.
Yeah, so I'm so grateful that Lacretia, your mom, was here. Welcome, and I'm so happy to have you in the audience. So to everyone listening, we are grateful to Lacretia. We hope you will stay in contact with her through her website, through LinkedIn, and let's keep this conversation going because it needs to be happening, and we need to pull from our best and our brightest people in the profession who are doing important work. And, no one should have to reinvent the wheel anymore, right, Lacretia?
Absolutely not. And I just want to thank you, Bonnie, for making the space for this conversation.
Well, it is my pleasure. I feel like it is so important to do. It's not going to stop. Jen agrees also. We are committed. My commitment is to take on these burning issues so that we can solve them. Assistants know that if we can look at an issue from all sides, that we have a much better chance of solving them. And so, what gives me hope are the incredible brain power of the assistants who show up to Heads Together. The folks who show up to this day on Wednesdays are people who really enjoy talking about real things, about real issues that are not necessarily easy to talk about. So thank you. I hope the audience will check out betheultimateassistant.com. Lots of resources on the free resources page. There's a tab now for anti-racism resources, otherwise known as allyship, and lots of other things too. We still have seats for B2A virtual on March 4th and 5th. We're offering a coupon code to save 10%, which is B2A bonus 21. We welcome the conversation. We want to know your favorite movies, your favorite ice cream, and most of all, the solutions about how to build a workplace where people feel seen and respected and valued. So with that, I thank you, Lacretia Caldwell Adamski, so much for being here. Jen, thank you as always for your help. And thank you to our viewers from all over the world. Thank you for showing up and for being part of this conversation. Let's just keep it going. Be safe out there. Be cozy and warm if you're freezing wherever you are. Bye. See you next Wednesday with another guest.